Is Bring a Trailer still strong? Are they stronger than Hagerty Marketplace, PCAR Market, and Doug DeMiro's Cars and Bids? Tonight we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about results on the predictions that we made on the last episode, and we've got all new predictions, plus a special guest. This is Bid Nerds. The bidding starts now. Nerds! Bid Nerds is your daily YouTube car game show, where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Hagerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds. Boom! Time for a brand new episode of Bid Nerds, your nerd out on the most interesting cars on all the car auction platforms like Cars and Bids, PCAR Market, Bring a Trailer, more. My name is John Polnik. I'm your host, coming to you from the Container Park in downtown Las Vegas in the Rami studio, along with my partner Michael Deeb in San Francisco. How are you, Michael Deeb? What's up?
What's up, guys? I'm just saying hi to the nerds on the chat here as we're going live, and it's all coming together. Very excited that we got a last-minute special guest to be a third nerd tonight. So before we even introduce him, I just want to pander to our guest host and thank him for accepting my call literally an hour ago. This guy had to shave and get his hair done and put on clothes for the first time all day just so he could be on the show with us. So thank you, Michael Pearlman. Thanks. What's up, dude?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
Thanks for having me.
So Mike comes to us from basically working for the Motoring Club, which has been in Marina Del Mar for what, 6 years or something?
Yeah, Marina Del Rey, and then last year we expanded over to Sawtell into a new 20,000 square foot building, and we're now finally expanding up to San Francisco. So I too am calling from San Francisco from our new
Very
location.
very cool. And did the Marina Del Rey location, does it still exist, or did everything get moved into the new location that I haven't seen yet?
Yeah, so everything's moved over to Sawtell now.
Okay, got it.
We were kind of in a holding pattern with Marina Del Rey for a little bit, but now everything's been moved over, and yeah, the club is there.
That's cool. And so San Francisco is under construction. When do you think it's going to be ready? And are you guys accepting applications?
Well, hold on a second. Yeah. What are you guys even talking about? What is it?
Oh yeah, what is it?
Great. Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. This is I
assume
know.
Everybody knows. I assume everybody knows what the Motoring Club is. My bad.
What the heck is the Motoring Club?
No, great question. It's a membership car club and a coffee shop. So basically, the front half of our building in both SF and LA is a full front-facing coffee shop, and then the back is a membership car club where we have co-work space, we do events, and kind of everything else under the sun for car enthusiasts. We do F1 scrutings, we do drives.
Do you have a collection of cars that you put on Turo as well, or have as rentals? I know that the LA place has that as well, right?
Yeah, so we're going to be doing that a little bit up here. Our first experimental car is going to be a 73 BMW 2002.
Nice.
That's kind of built out with KW coilovers, and we find that it's going to be a fun sort of entry classic car for people that kind of haven't experienced that yet. So if you're a member, you can rent it up here.
Very cool. Very cool.
Awesome. All right, I'm writing a check right now here.
When's that going to be ready?
We're looking at like early to midsummer right now.
Fun. So you're flat out. So you are flat out right now, getting it all together.
We're flat out. Yeah. We've got contractors and workers in the building every day. It's pretty amazing how quickly stuff has progressed even in the last month and a half.
It's taking shape.
We started construction in January, and I mean it's really starting to take shape just even in the last couple of weeks. So it's exciting stuff for sure.
So as the Motoring Club has its own Instagram, will the Motoring Club SF have its own Instagram page?
No, so it'll just be, we have two pages. We have one for Motoring Coffee, and then we have one for Motoring Club just in general.
Yeah.
So
I've seen some of the sneak photos of the building on Union Street in the Marina District of San Francisco under construction. It's a dramatic building before you guys got your hands on it. I can't wait to see when it's done. So thank you, Mike, for jumping on with us last minute. Can't wait to talk cars with you. All right, JP, what do we got?
Well, before we get to making predictions on the cars, I want to give a shout out to our good friends at Godden Porsche and Godden Classic of Las Vegas. If you were looking for a classic Porsche or parts for a classic Porsche, or you want to just go down and look at classic Porsches, they got them. They got it all. Go down and visit our friends at Godden Classic and Godden Porsche of Las Vegas.
What's the rally car they've got that's on Instagram right now? They have something that looks like a 911R. Did you see that thing?
I don't know what you're talking about. So
all right. Well, next time we'll talk about it next time.
We'll have to look that up. They always have cool stuff over there. But that's the thing. Yeah. You never know what they're going to have down there. They always, Gary has his collection. You don't even know what the heck is there. They're always pulling. There's the stuff that they have is in inventory, and then they have the cars that are in the collection, and they bring them in just to show them off. So, and they had their big event last month. That was pretty cool for the PCA, the 50th anniversary. So Gary brought all of his Porsches out to the dealership for the first time ever. So that was impressive. But anyways, Godden Classic of Las Vegas. And then if you're going, hey, come on, it's time to get to the show. I'm looking at my watch, and I can tell because I had my fine Swiss watch serviced at our Smith's Fine Swiss Repair up in Idaho. You don't have to be in Idaho to have your fine Swiss watch serviced or repaired there. All you got to do is give them a call. They'll send you a box, put your watch in there, send it up to them. They'll send it back to you good as new. Our Smiths in Idaho. Check them out. All right. Let's get to some predictions. The top of the show, we asked the big question is, really is Bring a Trailer still strong, right? They're the biggest game in town. They have been eating everyone's lunch when it comes to auctioning cars online, but we're starting to see some cracks in the facade, is the landscape changing? Is it getting soft beneath them? Are they going to sink down into the earth like an earthquake in LA or something like that? And Hagerty's going to come and grab them. We're going to talk about that kind of stuff, and the way we're going to figure that out is by looking at results. And I think we're going to start out. I think one of their competitors, someone who desperately wants to bring a trailer, but really has literally no chance in hell. And every time they start to look like they might actually become legit, they do some crazy-ish. And I feel like we just need a segment from now on on the show. And this is the PCAR Sucks segments. It's just like every week they find something to make us go, what can they screw up now? Michael Deeb, we talked about a car on the last episode. We didn't even make a prediction because what happened?
Yeah, so we had scheduled this car to review, but we knew it was already sold. So basically, our friend Justin Jurgens, who owns British sports cars in San Luis Obispo, has a one-owner 1994 964 Speedster that was a car I actually wanted to sell on Hagerty. And me and Yuri and Sahan went down and saw it on our way to Air and Water. Turns out our friend Sebastian Hassel from San Francisco, who sold his M491, M470 Porsche on, actually failed to sell on BAT, but sold it post-auction. He went down and looked at the car and put a deposit on it. So when we did the show on Sunday night, I discovered that the car was still up on PCAR Market, a car that we were thinking about covering, but I had withdrawn it, knowing that it had sold. But as we were getting into the Sunday, I called Justin and I called Sebastian. I said, hey, if this car is actually sold to Sebastian, how come it's still on PCAR Market? Neither one of them knew that it was on PCAR Market. So JP encouraged the herd to go ahead and comment on the car while it was still live, that the Bit Nerd said, how could this car be at auction when it's already sold? And apparently that happened. The next morning, PCAR Market withdrew the car, proceeded to kick Justin under the bus by saying, and I quote, let me pull this up real quick. We apologize for any inconvenience. We withdrew this auction as the seller broke the terms and sold the car outside the platform after it was consigned, accepted, and live. The seller will no longer be able to offer vehicles on our platform, and we apologize to anyone who was bidding or interested in bidding on this vehicle. Very, very interesting, because Justin told me when I explained to him that the car was live, he literally didn't know it was up there. He said, I had sent them some photos, but we never signed an agreement. So according to Justin, PCAR Market listed this car without his permission. The next morning, he asked them to take it down. In the process, if you go on there now, it shows it had shown like 23 comments, but if you read the comments, there's only 11 lines of comments. And the thinking was from guys like Derek and JP and Yuri, who had seen early in the morning all the Bid Nerds comments. They took the car down, erased those comments, and the link still works to show you what JP just pulled up and demonstrated to us, that it says withdrawn. So very, very interesting. Obviously a little bit shady. I know Justin. I've known him for years. I know he's a good guy. If he told me he didn't know it was up, he definitely didn't know it was up. So if PCAR Market comes out and says that he broke the agreement, I just don't believe them at all. So there you go, JP. What an epic. Like, I mean, we bang on them all the time for doing all their like really shady stuff. But this, John, in 4 years, does this take the cake? Is this like the weirdest one we've ever seen?
I don't know if it's the weirdest because, and that's saying something, right? Because PCAR Market, like this is just kind of seems par for the course, really, to me. What would really take it to the next level is, you know, here it is that we're reporting on this on our show for the second time live, right, in a week. And, you know, I'd mentioned on the last episode too, is that what PCAR Market does when you call them, they record your voice. If you just know this, that if you're calling a representative, if you're talking to someone on the phone at PCAR Market, they are recording the conversation and they will use that conversation against you if they feel like they want to or need to. And if this gets ugly, if anyone really, you know, like last time we saw something like this, there was a huge thread on, what was it? Renlist, I want to say. People were talking about how shady that their platform was in regard to a very specific sale of a specific car. I don't remember the details of that particular.
Was it GT3?
I think it was a GT3, but that really didn't matter. The point was is that PCAR Market recorded the conversation and then uploaded a video on YouTube and played the conversation and the guy's name. It was like, boy, that seems pretty sketchy. And, you know, they were claiming that, we were giving the guy an opportunity. It was just, the whole thing was just like, gosh dang, guys, just let it go. This just makes it worse. And I feel like this is one of those things too, where they say, it's the seller's fault. Honestly, just take the listing down. Just say, we're sorry for the inconvenience. This listing had to be removed. And move on.
The car's no longer available.
Yeah, it's not available. Shut up. Don't make a thing out of it. Now, all of a sudden, people are pointing fingers at one another. And I can see at some point they'll probably post a video with the conversations that your friend had with them. And that'll be interesting. Mike, what do you think of this kind of ish on the auction sites? Have you had to deal with anything like this on any of them, on PCAR Market or BAT or any of them?
Well, so Michael, I don't know if you know this, but I actually was the head of auction, or the head of consignments for collecting cars in the U.S.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
the UK company that Chris Harris works with.
The UK company, correct?
Yeah.
So actually, I worked for them for a year, and it gave me a lot more behind the scenes access of like how kind of these situations. I've dealt with many of these situations on the other end of it myself. Yeah. And it can be challenging, you know, you can have people who can be super unreasonable on, you know, sellers and brokers, anybody who's in between alike, you know, depending on what kind of car you're dealing with. And we dealt with everything from, you know, $5,000 VW things to $1.4 million Porsche 918s. In 2021, like before that stuff.
Hey, I just want to say I'll take basis. It. A $5,000 thing, I'm in. I already paid for it.
I think I still got the guy's phone. Maybe I got the guy's phone number or something.
You do, give it to me. Yeah.
Anyway, all that's to say, you know, and I've sold cars on Brand Trailer too, and done the whole thing, and it's that is not a great way to act. I definitely. I've never heard of that before, so actually it's the first time I've heard that PCAR Market was doing something like that. So I don't know. It's troublesome for sure. So I wouldn't want to do that on their end.
Nope.
I mean, I get you know, the whole like, okay, we're gonna record the phone calls in case there's some kind of legal action. Yeah, and like it's a car business, right? What do they say in the car business? Buyers are liars. You know, if you work at a dealership, every sales manager has said that to you. And so fine, record the phone calls. I really don't actually have a problem with that. If it comes down to legal action, you have to play it in court, okay. But putting it up online and making it things into a he said, she said, it's just you're going down the low road hardcore with that. And there's no way a brand can ever win that fight. So just take the high road, say sorry if there was inconvenience, and move the F on and make it a non-thing to talk about. Doing stuff like this makes it something to talk about. If they had just removed the listing or just said, sorry, we had to remove the listing, we wouldn't have this. Right? We wouldn't be able to sit here and make a whole other segment about it. And that's just that's really the thing that drives me nuts about PCAR Market is that it's unforced errors. They keep shooting themselves in the foot. They do things that it's one thing to make a mistake, but to just like make a mistake and then do everything you possibly can to make it worse is just, well, that's PCAR Market. Anyways, what do you guys think of what happened with this Speedster and how PCAR Market dealt with it? Am I too hard on PCAR Market? Everyone tells me I am, and maybe I am, but I am what I am. I'm like Popeye. Let's get to some of the. We made some predictions on the last episode, and we want to get back to this whole idea of is Bring a Trailer still strong, or are they struggling compared to some of the other platforms? And we've got some cars that we watched, and I'd like to see what happened with those, and maybe that the results of these listings can help us answer that question. So what was the first car we had on the list?
All right, JP, for sure an interesting week, as two of our three cars were on Bring a Trailer. One was on Cars and Bids, and it was just one of the more interesting weeks we've had. So the first car was a 1992 Alfa Romeo Spider. Our car was sort of a British racing green with a tan interior. The car had previously sold last year on BAT. And when it sold last year, JP, the car was November of 2023, and the car sold for $35,500. The new owner went on to spend what we argued to be almost $10,000 in wheels and tires and ECU flash and upgraded suspension components and all sorts of cool things. But the car has come back to market in a short period of time, and we wondered if this guy would recoup his money. With that in mind, I didn't think he would see his 35 again, but I thought it might get up to 32,500 because I thought the British racing green with the old style Alfa Romeo GTA kind of wheels really set it apart. You surprisingly took the over at $33,000. We had Andy, Las Vegas most important citizen of the month, in studio with us, and he said $27,000, taking a steep under. And we had Derek Whitaker from Los Angeles, music man extraordinaire and air-cooled aficionado. Derek thought $28,000 would be all it would be required to buy this Alfa Romeo Spider. Mike Pearlman, I know you know cars. The car just transacted 6 months ago. It's been brought back to market with some enhancements. And despite it being spring, nobody thought this car would see $35,000 again. What do you think the result of this car was on BAT just the other day?
Interesting. Yeah, the market for those is always interesting. I feel like there's always very much like it's a really good one can fetch a lot of money, and a really bad one can fetch maybe 10 grand or whatever it may be. And obviously presentation is like everything on these. So with that said, yeah, it's a bit of a guessing game, I think, in terms of the current market for something like this between 23 and 24. But it's a great color combo. So there's that. And it's not the thing actually that I'm seeing about this now. Is it's not sea of beige interior, which I don't know these later cars super well, but I didn't.
Yeah,
the fact that
black dashes.
Got some separation in there. It's a little bit.
Yeah.
It's
so
pleasing to the eyes. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like 28 grand is like pretty. 27 to 29, I feel like is a pretty fair.
Just give us
something like
gotta
that.
pick a number. Gotta pick
one number, Mike.
Okay, I'm gonna go with 27 grand. I'm gonna go 27.
27.
I'm gonna take a low end.
All right, very good, JP. Without further ado, Derek Whitaker must have ESPN because our car hammered at $28,000. Both Andy and Mike missed a Yahtzee by just $1,000, and it looks like Anthony in the comments was at 28.5. So was Tom at 28.5. So they both just missed JP. But Derek Whitaker got himself a Yahtzee. And that's a pretty good guess. But the interesting thing, JP, at 28 grand, our car failed to sell on 22 bids. So now this guy has burned his own car and he's got a firm grip on it. Where does he go to get rid of this car if he needs to get rid of this car? He's on BAT. He's his own worst comp. He spent more money on it after he bought it for a high watermark. I think he's buried in it, John. I don't see how he's ever going to get 30 grand out of this thing now that he FTS'd at 28 grand as an alumnus on the biggest auction platform in the world. So what do you think, John? I think he's like, by not taking that number, I think he's ruined it for him. Like he owns this car now.
Yeah, I mean that number will basically be the number that these are worth for really good examples, like this one is. I mean, the fact that it had that $10,000 worth of maintenance and upgrades means, boy, does this mean that BAT is softening? I think the market is softening. I don't think it has anything to do with the platform. This car is as nice as this particular car comes, but I think Mike is right in the sense that it's hard to really the value of these. They're either really good or really ishy in regards to the actual cars. There doesn't seem to be like an okay one. They're always just like complete piles of crap or just restored. And because it's so there sometimes there are a few cars, like my own personal experience with like an Audi R8 I had that didn't bring any money on BAT. BAT is a really bad platform for that particular car. I got more money for that car selling it to a dealership at wholesale than I did for, by a $10,000 margin. I don't think there's any place
same day.
The same day. I don't think there's anywhere you can't like say, oh, well, it didn't sell here on BAT, so I'm going to just march this down to the Alfa Romeo dealership and sell it to them because they've got an audience for this car, or a market, a bunch of people that are looking for that. And nobody's looking for one of these, and if they are, they're looking for it here on BAT. They're not looking on PCAR Market. They're definitely not looking for this particular car on, say, Cars and Bids, maybe on a Hagerty. But I think if this is a car that's on your list, and that's not a lot of people that this car is on their list, they're going to look at BAT. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah.
Mike, what do you think of the results?
So I want to bring up actually a wild card here, and I did a little research beforehand, or actually just now, just to double check. I went on my old employer's website. I went on Collecting Cars, because what's happened, an interesting thing that I learned while working there, is that a lot of the cars that get listed in the U.S. actually end up getting exported over there.
Oh, wow.
And because there was a small enough number, most of the people who are registered bidders on those sites are all Europeans. They're happy to do that as long as the car is 30 years old or older, which this is. So that becomes, then you have to counter in the European market for something like this, which I thought could be interesting, given the fact that it's a smaller car, and small vintage cars, like Minis and old Fiats and Alfas in general do really well over there. But I actually, I looked in, I didn't see anything recent that has told me anything different than like what BAT would tell me, basically. So, so it turns out, it's not too different of a situation. I'm looking on there now. I saw the car that sold in August of 23 for like 22,000 euros, which is, I think, it's like the closest comp I can see. So, it's kind of, it affirms the fact that these cars could be kind of a crapshoot depending on condition. So yeah, I would have personally taken the 28 grand if it were.
Yeah, smart move. Yeah. Remember, Rafi in early February, JP, Rafi sold his white one, which was a 92 with a few more miles than this. And he sold it for $25,000 and just took the money and ran. And so this guy didn't. And now I think he's stuck with this car.
Well, I mean, if you remember on the last episode, Andy, who got the Yahtzee on this car,
No, Derek
really.
did.
Oh, was it Derek? Okay, sorry.
Derek,
Derek was the one that got the Yahtzee, but Andy cracked the code. And Randy B on the Nerd Herd is mentioning that the photography certainly didn't help. This listing was definitely phoned in, and I think that definitely kind of lends itself to the idea that Andy had, which was the guy doesn't want to sell it and he's just trying to placate his wife. So he just went out and took the worst possible pictures and just like, hopefully this thing doesn't sell. And so, yeah, is he stuck with it? Or maybe he got what he wanted and he's just playing 4D chess with his other half. What do you guys think of the result of this Alfa Romeo's failure to sell on Bring a Trailer? Does that mean BAT is not as strong as it used to be? Or is this just the result of a softening market on cars that are on the margin? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and let's move on to the next car that we made a prediction on. What do we got?
All right, JP, I picked a car that I thought you would enjoy this summer, and you wouldn't have to spend any money on transportation, just an Uber right away, was this 2013 Porsche 911 base Carrera Cabriolet with a 7-speed manual. This is a 991.1 base 911, triple black, 70,000 miles, in your own backyard, John. Yeah, I feel like you don't send me flowers often enough for teeing these up for you. This car is in Las Vegas, right behind you. Interesting thing, Mike, when we reviewed this car a couple of days ago, it had 3 days to go, which means it had been live for 4 days. It was sitting at just $5,000 on 2 bids, which is very unusual for Bring a Trailer. And it gave everybody, I think even the herd and everybody like Andy and Derek that were watching this, it gave us all pause. Like, what are we missing? It's a clean Carfax. It's just a standard Carrera. Like, why is nobody bidding on this car? And it tempered my expectations for the car. I really initially thought this car would be like a $45,000 car, but I started the bidding at $38,000, wondering how this car would ever recover from the low initial bids that it got, something that is very unusual on BAT. JP, you took the over at $39,991. I see what you did there. Andy was all in on this car. He said $45,000. And Derek Whitaker split the bids between JP and Andy, giving us his bid of just $42,000. Mike, again, fair miles, triple black, manual, base Carrera cab in the spring. It's a dry climate car in Vegas, although it has had multiple owners. What do you think would happen for this car on BAT actually today? This car closed earlier today. So give us your bid on this base Carrera.
Okay, so before I do that, I want to touch on that point that you've made with cars taking a long time, longer than usual on BAT, because I have also noticed this as well as a frequent BAT watcher. And it's interesting. I think the model for, I think a lot of people would think, oh, you're like 75% of the way there until the last day, and then all the action happens in the last 10 minutes. Where I've seen a few cars that are like at a third of their value, and then they end up climbing to 2 or 3x what that that bid is. And of course, if it was sitting at $5,000, then it's kind of a different conversation. But I will say I'm gonna go with 38, and the reason I'm gonna go with 38 is not necessarily due to the condition of the car, but the photos. The photos are, I gotta say, are kind of lackluster at best. And as we all know, photos sell the car. These photos are not selling me this car.
Not only that, but I think JP was telling us there's only like 50 photos of this car. 77 photos.
Wow.
77 photos. It's a really small bucket.
That's actually surprising to me that
an
auction specialist would allow that.
And Mike, this is a dealer that's selling the car. This is somebody that's in the business with what you would assume is at least a semi-pro photographer. They went out to a parking lot and took photos with the sun in the background. I mean, they're not
even in focus. I mean, and the original. I mean,
Yeah.
look at this photo. This is insane, guys. And half the photos are this quality. I noticed in the bucket there at the very end, there was a couple pictures of the options. But I actually went on this listing when we were first talking about it and said, "Hey, where's the pictures of the option buttons?" They didn't even have that until the last day. The driving video is just basically a video of the dashboard while the car is driving down the road. Can't see the road, can't see anything. It's just the dashboard. I mean, this car is this definitely takes the cake for one of the worst just listings of all time. Not because anything shady is going on, but just for sheer lack of effort. This is just like worse than something you would see on Facebook Marketplace. And guys, I reached out to this guy. I went on BAT and because it is in my backyard, and I'm like actually was kind of interested in the car. So I reached out to him. He's down in Henderson, and I wanted to go take a look at the car. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to go down there and look at it in person. But I did reach out to him later today. But before I tell you what happened there, let's talk about the results. What happened, Deeb?
All right, JP. So the car hammered at $47,500, which is higher than anybody in studio, but it failed to sell at that number on 39 bids. This car actually got good action in the end and got to what I would say is just at the bottom end of a fair number for the car. So at 47.5, JP, I'm kind of, but not 100%, but I'm kind of surprised he didn't take the money. Like how much are you holding out for? Like clearly the reserve on this car was higher than $50,000. And that's a little ambitious for such poor quality photos. Like I don't understand why BAT would award a high reserve or a top of the market reserve for not a low mileage car with poor assets. And then it's also worth noting, JP, that while Michael S. and Chris Carbine guessed 48 and were off a Yahtzee by $500, Anthony Vieira at 47.5 got a Yahtzee. So make sure, JP, after the show is over, we send Anthony Vieira an Hoursmith t-shirt that he can wear proudly because he got a Yahtzee on Bid Nerds. John, explain to us what you saw, what you happened when you made contact with these people. And I'd also like you to tell us, do you think he should have taken the 47.5 for the car?
Well, no, because the car is definitely worth more. Look, he took crappy photos. That doesn't mean it's a bad car. What it means is that you're not going to sell it to anyone because nobody knows if it's a good car or bad car or not. You don't know if it might be a bad car, but it's not because of the photos. It's the problem with this listing is that you can't tell one way or the other. So you have to actually put eyes on the damn car. If it is in fact a clean car as it's described, this car is worth well over $50,000. There's no way I would take 45 grand for this thing. That would be stupid. You could easily get 55 grand for this car on Marketplace. A manual 991 that's clean with that kind of miles, black on black. It's a good color combo. People want that, right? It's not a super high demand car. It's not going to bring, $100,000, but that is a great entry level 911 for a modern car. That said, you can't tell. So I reached out to him. I never got a chance to see it, but I did hit him up after the auction, said, "Hey, I saw that the car didn't close today. Do you have a price in mind?" And his response was, "Yeah, $51,500." I'm like,
"Oh wow,
shit." I'm like, actually,
I would have that's so close. I would have lifted reserve. That's kind of disappointing.
Right? So I'm going, shit, I might have to go and talk to this guy and buy this thing. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, can I come by tomorrow and actually check it out in person? He's like, well, if I don't get the check. I'm like, what? So I'm like, let's see if I can bring it up. So I think he's got someone who basically said that they're going to buy it, and they're going to do a wire transfer or something.
I think it's the high bidder because he got the email of the high bidder, and then he said in the comments, "Hey, I got your email. I just emailed you. Holler back if you're interested." So I think he's trying to finagle a deal with the high bidder because clearly they're only a few $1,000s apart. But John, I told you should buy this car. That's why I picked it.
It's a nice car. I mean, it could be a nice car. If I show up and it's a nice car. Well, here's the thing. The same seller also has a really nice R8 Spider in all black that I like. And I kind of like more. And it also has the same terrible listing. It's out of focus. There's no way that's going to close either. So I don't know. Maybe tomorrow I'll go get to take my pick of a black convertible. I just got speaking of black convertibles, I just got my 964 convertible back from our friends at Posh Auto Styling here in Las Vegas. They did a flat black wrap and it looks really good. I'll have to share some photos with you guys later.
Yeah.
Totally.
You did that.
One other quick bit.
Oh, yeah, Mike, hop in there. We
sorry,
didn't get your analysis. My apologies. What do you think of the results?
Yeah.
No, so what I naturally did is I went over to Carvana and I was like, "What's this thing worth? What are you going to pay
Yeah.
for it right now?" And the
Yeah.
answer is 45.6.
Should have taken the money. I was right. Good
So
guess.
yeah, so 45.6 would have bought that. Apparently, would have that car would have sold to Carvana. And I think I went in and I was like, I think I added one key. I don't know if there's two keys or something. I tried to keep it as fair as possible. But that's kind of with these new cars on that. Whenever my instinct should my general instinctive thing to do is to go on Carvana, Vroom, all the wholesalers and figure out, okay, what's the thing actually worth? And do I need to find somebody to bid on it, to try to win it if it's no reserve? So,
well, and that's the thing, though. I mean, if Carvana says it's worth 46 grand, they're going to sell it. They're going to list it for 55, right? So yeah, I mean, I think this guy should not have sold it for 45 because clearly he's going to get the 50 grand. Just putting it out in the open market. This car is so. Anyways, let us know what you guys think of the results of this poorly listed 991. Is it the platform's fault? Did BAT screw something up here by even accepting this listing? That's, I think, all of our opinions. They should not have let this ad go live with those photos. It's been suggested that their quality control is definitely going down steadily if they're allowing a listing like this to go live. But what do you guys think? Are we wrong? Do we know nothing? We're told that pretty often too. Let us know in the comments below. And what other car did we make a prediction on last week, Michael Deeb?
JP, on that last car, Chris Carbine in the comments says, Buddha, you need this. And Buddha says, I'm a cabriophobe.
2024, don't be a cabriophobe.
Yeah. And then Chris Carbine goes on to say, oh, dear JP, a rap?
Sorry, love it.
I couldn't resist those. Reading those comments are so good. Juicy stuff. Thank you, Chris Carbine. Okay. On Cars and Bids, JP, I selected for us this very mundane 2018 Porsche Panamera Turbo Sport Turismo with just 13,000 miles. Think about that, JP. Can you imagine? This car is going on 7 years old, and it's just got 13,000 miles. Our car is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Again, it's on Cars and Bids, Doug DeMiro's site. JP, look, these things have all the bells and whistles and a degree of practicality as well. Estates or Tourians or wagons or Avants or whatever you call them in Europe. In Europe, these cars are a big deal. In America, they still never really caught on. If you see a young junior exec driving a wagon, like a high performance luxury European wagon, only real car guys will think that guy is cool. Everybody else will be like, why is he driving a wagon and not an SUV? But I kind of dig this car. I always have, John. I was with Porsche when these cars sort of came out. And I love that Porsche is making it. Might be one in my future. John, I like this car, and I started the bidding probably on the high side. I thought that this car would be worth, or at least have a chance to get to $100,000. Nobody in the herd agreed with me, JP. You went down, took the under at 99,971, which is 971 is the model designation from Porsche. Andy, Mr. Las Vegas, gave us a bid of just $90,000. And again, Derek Whitaker split the difference between Andy and JP, giving us the bid of $92,000. Mike, what do you think? Low miles, bells and whistles, Turbo Sport Turismo, on Cars and Bids, in white. What do you think happened here when it closed? I think this one closed a couple days. No, this one closed today as well. So what do you think happened today on Cars and Bids with this car?
Oh, man. I actually, I love these cars. I think they're super cool. I think they're a really cool E63 wagon alternative.
Yep.
I don't know the market on them that well. That's the thing. I have to admit. And I would assume it's comparable to something like an E63, but my general instinct is, okay, given I'm going to look at the other guys in the room and probably go, maybe judging by the photos, I'll be, I'm actually going to be more optimistic. I'm going to say 90 on this one.
90. 90 is not a bad guess.
I'm going to go with 90. Yeah.
Most of the
But
herd's
it's not an
bids,
educated guess. I will just say that
yeah,
it is more of a guess than an educated guess. I have to admit.
that's okay. It's all we do here. We're all
Yeah.
amateurs. So most of the bidding that came out of the herd was in the $80,000 and $90,000 range, which is interesting because our car hammered at just $78,000, where it failed to sell on a respectable action of 30 bids. JP, that would make Andy the winner here for the second time this week. That would also make the third car that failed to sell that we covered. 3 out of 3 FTS. And out of the herd, Ross Churchhouse at $81,950 is actually $2,000 closer than Peter, who bid 72. So Ross would have been the winner outright. But Andy in studio, JP, this car didn't really even come near a true value. If we surmise that somewhere between the 80s and 90s is the real value, then I'd say somewhere in that 90 grand is probably the ACV based on the, just averaging out all of our bids. That by that rationale, this car missed the mark by, 15%. So what do you think? Is it, because it wasn't the car, it was a really nice car. The car's niche, but it's cars and bids. He's got a big enough audience. He should have sold this thing. What read the tea leaves for us, John? Is this the softening of the platform? Is this the softening of the market? Clearly this is not a vintage sports car, but this is a niche luxury sports sedan. And it missed by a ways. I mean, this thing wasn't even close. What's going on?
Can you get more Star Trek than this interior? I mean, literally, this looks like the set of the Enterprise or something like that on something.
Yeah.
I mean, that is amazing looking at it. Whoever designed this thing. No, I do like these cars. I think they are super cool, just like you, Mike. But look, of all the car segments out there, probably the worst next to EVs right now in the plummeting of in the depreciation curve is luxury European cars. This is a fantastic car, but this thing is just on the fast track down the toilet bowl. Whatever, and we saw that before we saw the craziness, the crazy appreciation of the last couple of years of 21, 22, 23, when everyone was nuts. But now we're correcting back to pre-nuts. And it's always been that way. It's not like this is new. It's always been that luxury European cars are $200,000, and then 6 years later, 7 years later, you can get them for $8,000 or something. I mean, this is going to be within 5 years, this is going to be parked at one of the apartment buildings right off the strip, and some chick that works at Spearmint Rhino is going to be driving this thing back and forth. This car just is DOA. The only people that spend the money on these are the people that buy them brand new, and everyone else just eats it in the shorts until this becomes a worthless car. And like I said on the last segment, man, talk about horrible to keep up when it comes to maintenance. These things are, once they're out of warranty, you do not want this car. And I got to think that this car is either out of warranty or just about to. Everything is expensive on this thing, and there's more lines of code in this thing than a space shuttle. You don't want to be the person holding the bag when it comes time for a repair bill on a Porsche Panamera Turbo. Mike, what do you think of the results?
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, I have to, I do kind of have to blame photos again on this one. I would have liked to think if somebody had spent, $300 or $400 on a set of photos, then that would have probably might have yielded them another 5 to 10 grand that they needed. Yeah, these things are tough. It's a tough market, obviously, particularly when seller expectations have to change like week by week with these things depreciating. So, yeah, I'm surprised. I'm not super surprised. But I'd say that the market is speaking.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't think it has anything to do with platform. I actually think this is probably the best platform. I think Doug DeMaro's probably had the most likely this is the right platform. I think this car would have completely disappeared into the ether on BAT. The buyer for this is not looking for this car on BAT, I think. What do you think of that?
Let me ask you a question, JP. As you consider that these cars are plummeting in value, this car is 6 years old, so it's definitely out of warranty unless he bought it used with a
CarMax or something.
Yeah, something like that. What do they call those warranties? The aftermarket warranties. But anyway, do you think he should have considered 78? Do you think 78 is actually a fair?
If he doesn't want the car, then yes.
Yeah.
But otherwise, he's stuck with it. I think he's worse off than the guy with the Alfa. At least the guy with the Alfa just spent the $10,000 to repair it. And he's probably going to be his car's probably going to be fairly reliable, and his exposure is relatively low because even if the engine blows up on an Alfa Romeo, okay, great, it's going to cost you another 10 grand. An air ride module could go out on this car and that's going to cost you 10 grand. The module that makes the windows go up and down is $10,000. The module that does whatever makes the lights look Star Trek-y in the back is $10,000. Everything is $10,000 on this car. And it's just going to be constantly going back to German motors to get this thing fixed, and you're going to be putting one of Daniel's 4 daughters through college. So yes, our friend Daniel at German Motors says buy this car. You do not want one of these out of warranty. The only way you get one of these is either a CPO car or CarMax warranty. And the thing is, the CarMax warranties are transferable. Like when I had my Turbo Cayenne, it was under a CarMax warranty and it was great. I was like, let's drive the hell out of it. Who cares if Gizmo X, Y, or Z blows up? But even on my Macan, it's like $3,000 every time you bring it in, every goddamn time, no matter what. It's something.
Did these things have the transfer case issues that the Macan has?
You mean like the drive shaft stuff, the problems? I don't know.
Yeah, the stuff that's like, because I know with a lot of these Macans, like you got to replace it under warranty before like 75,000 to 100K. And everyone I know who's had a Macan under the CPO warranty has either replaced the transfer case or replaced the DSG. Yeah. So I don't know if that's a thing on these, but it might be.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that day with my Macan. So yeah, and I'm not even a stripper. I don't have stripper money, so I don't know how I'm going to afford it. Mine blows up. All right, what do you guys think of the results of this Panamera station wagon? It was that should the seller have taken the 78 grand and ran, or do you think he was smart to stick around with it? I mean, he can live in the car. It's a big car. It's got a lot of room inside. You could always give up the home and just do the tiny home thing in the back of a Panamera. Maybe that's a thing to do. Let us know what you think in the comments below. And we're going to make some brand new predictions. We got a whole list of other cars to talk about. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this, about 60 seconds, guys. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden. This guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. If you don't subscribe to Bid Nerds on YouTube right now, I'm gonna shoot this 997. If you said, wait, that's a 996, you're a nerd. So subscribe to the new YouTube channel, Bid Nerds. Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair. All right, we are right back. Thanks for sticking around. Mike, you're still with us? That's good. You didn't ditch out on us in the break. And most of our guests are like, this is really lame. What am I doing here? I'm out. So yeah, this is you having fun?
Yeah, this is a blast.
All right, good times.
I was curious. I wanted to get a Carvana value. I'm doing this too late, but I want to see if I can get a Carvana value on that.
We got to get those guys to sponsor this show every time we make a. It's like, what's the Carvana value before you guys give your bid?
Classic.com. They should all sponsor.
I mean, come on, man. Right. Don't we know people? Shout out to the Nerd Herd. You guys are rocking it. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight and making us part of your regular Wednesday thing. This is a lot of fun doing the show for you guys, and you are why we do it. So if you're in there in the Nerd Herd right now, make sure if you haven't done it already, hit that thumbs up button. Does that give us the little thing? No, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So yeah, hit the thumbs up button, and if you haven't subscribed yet, I mean, really, do it. What are you doing? What are you waiting for? Make it happen. All right, let's get to some new predictions. We got a bunch of cool, or I don't know, we got interesting cars tonight. Tonight's list is almost exclusively from the Nerd Herd. I think all these cars were sent to us either in DMs or something. Did we select any of these?
I did. I selected one, the BM. But
all right, well, we'll get to that one. What's the first thing on the list? We're going to talk about something that happened last week, right?
Yeah, let's reconcile another car. So last week, JP, you remember, or like a week ago, Chef selected for us that 1978 Porsche 911 SC that was turned into a backdate RSR. That car was on Bring a Trailer JP, and it had transacted last year. And then the guy who bought it spent like 50 grand on the car and brought it back to market. So he had actually so it had transacted for like 120 something. He bought it for 87 6 months later, and then he spent 50 grand on it and brought it back to market. And none of us thought this car stood a chance. So JP, he was trying to get like 145 to get his money out of it. I said 129, saying that maybe based on his receipts and his price tag for the car at 87, he'd get some of his money back, but not all of it. You took a big under at 99,000, and that car FTS'd for $91,000 on 25 bids back on the 8th of May. Well, the very next day, that car shows up on PCAR Market, and here we are, JP. Our car's got just 4 bids. It's up to $66,666, and it's sitting there on PCAR Market, and it closes tomorrow, essentially. And all I got to say, John, is I feel like everybody in the herd that is aware that this car got relisted on PCAR Market is just waiting to see what it shows up for in the deal tank with an asking price, because that'll then eventually tell us what this guy's trying to get for the car, because I don't think there's anybody that thinks that this car is going to meet the reserve in the natural auction on PCAR Market. So JP, obviously nobody's surprised that this car wound up on PCAR Market, but it was live the next day. We covered that car on Wednesday the 8th. It closed on Wednesday the 8th, and we had the show that night. On Thursday, that car goes live, and then tomorrow, Thursday, it closes. So, like, how effing fast is that? Like, that is crazy talk. Chris Carbine texted it to us, but we all knew it was going to be up there. But even my breath was taken by, like, how fast. Like, the next morning it was live. You woke up and it was on a different platform. What do you think, JP?
Yeah, I mean, PCAR Market loves sloppy seconds. Anything they can do to get a shot at, it's like they don't mind, man. They're like, hey, we're good. Let's get in there. It's still warm.
Yeah. Does BAT ever just like crank call Oyster Bay and go, hey, Oyster Bay, how'd I taste?
I mean, I think this goes right along with PCAR Market sucks. All right. Yeah, Mike, what do you think of this car showing up on PCAR Market the next dang day?
12 hours later, yeah. Jeez.
It's quick, actually. I'm surprised
Well, I mean, look, they already had access to the pictures.
But, it's great.
Do you think they just like, okay, maybe that's okay, here we go. Maybe we cracked another code here. Maybe PCAR Market sits around and like, okay, Joe, your job is to watch all the cars that fail to sell on BAT. You download all those pictures and you list that fucking car. You list it. And then we'll just call them. And then they just list the car, and then if they sell it, they call the seller and go, "Hey, we sold your car." And they're like, "Okay." And then if not, they just put it in the. I think that's how they populate all their stuff.
JP, when you yelled, you sounded exactly like you were from Long Island. That was really scary.
I mean, I hang out with Rami a lot, and
there's got to be a meme of like the PCAR Market guys and Will Ferrell at funerals hitting on the widows, like the body's not even in the earth, and they're like, "So you like Chinese or what?" Like.
Yeah. Does Vinny have any Porsches that you want to get rid of? Totally. We might have an opportunity for you.
Yeah, they're checking auction listings and the obits for clients.
Oh my gosh,
that's sad.
Yeah.
Woo. All right, too funny.
Okay, well there it is. Let us know. Are we bidding on it?
Yeah, it's up to you, John. You want to throw some numbers?
Let's do it. Where will it FTS at, and then and then we'll take a stab at what you think it'll go in the chum bucket for.
Okay, a week ago, this car failed to sell on BAT for $91,000 on 25 bids. I think that this car is going to. It's at 67,000 on 4 bids. So I'm going to give you 86 grand where it fails to sell. So JB 86, because I think that car should be 86. What is it? 8 miles out, 6 feet deep, right?
Right.
So 86 is my bid for the Vegas the Vegas that's left inside of me.
Drag it out in the bay with the Stugats. Let's see.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll go. I mean, Michael S is saying 87 K and then 125 in the chum bucket. I'm with him, man. I'll go grand over you, but I'll go 87 911. So that's not the exact same thing, and then say 125 911 in the chum bucket and pass it off to Mike. What do you think,
Mike? What do you think the hammer is going to be? And then if you want to guess what he's going to ask for it, do that too.
I think 87.5 is a good stopping point, and I'm gonna agree. By the way, I love the term chum bucket. It's great.
Somebody in the NERB herd came up with that.
It's fantastic. I think 125 is pretty fair, given the extent of work that the car's been through.
I think this car is going to wind up for more than that in the chum bucket. I think I'm going to say over 130 in the chum bucket. But that's a good guess. And JP, we can move on from that one. I just thought it was really interesting how fast that car went live. It is an interesting thing to think that instead of the consignor selling them, that the moment that it failed to sell, that there's somebody at PCAR Market that's sending emails saying, hey, if you want that car to go live, we've got all the assets. Just say yes to this email and it'll be live the next day. And then it goes live overnight, because that car was live when we woke up. That's creepy.
Yeah, I mean, there's just how that, or did the seller know that it wasn't going to sell on BAT? I mean, that's just like, what other options are? I really think, we know that PCAR Market is cruising forums like Renlist and other places that Porsches are for sale, the PCA classifieds and stuff, and they're hitting everybody up there saying, hey, do you want to sell your thing on cars or PCAR Market? But what better place to find Porsches that need to be sold than ones that failed to sell on a lesser platform? All right, let us know what you guys think, and we'll revisit this one the next episode quickly. Let's get to some fresh cars, because that's some stinky Oyster Bay-ish, man. It's stinking up the joint. Let's get to something that's a little bit more. What do we got?
All right, so our friend Joff, who is a buddy of Mental's, has a kind of a hot rod shot over here in the East Bay, and Joff is selling his own personal 1984 Chevrolet Camaro. He did a 350 swap in this car. Whatever as a Z28, I think it would have had like a 5-liter. Like a 302 or something. He took that out and put a built 350 in this car. It's a manual transmission. It's showing 60,000 miles, but it's a lot more than that on the chassis. But the big news is the motor that's under the hood and the fact that the paint and the interior in this car are original. And JP, although this is a 1984 Chevrolet Camaro Z28, there's something about that gradiated brown graphics that's still decidedly very 70s. How radwood, how cool is this car? 6-speed manual. It's a Tremec T56, the big monstrous V8, removable T-tops, and a lot of originality throughout the cosmetics. This car shows really, really well for its age. And the driving video is hilarious because he doesn't just go cruising around his neighborhood. He basically opens the throttle and just just puts the pedal to the metal. And so you can hear this car revving and the tires are squealing everywhere he goes. It's a great little driving video. So if you have a moment, take a look at it because it'll make you laugh. JP, these cars were only, I think just $14,000 when they were brand new back in 84. But this car is certainly going to bring more than that today. The big question is if this car will meet reserve. Look, the guy who owns the shop owns this car. This car is dialed in and tuned to the hilt. It's his baby, and he did a lot of work on it to get everything, all the services and everything up to snuff as he brought it to market. Mental introduced me to him, and I wanted to put the car on Hagerty, but he was already talking to somebody about having them help him list it on BAT. And I said, hey, man, go for it on BAT. If it doesn't work, we can always try it on Hagerty second. So here you go, JP. Very cool. When you think IROC Z, you think bright red or bright blue metallic. But this early version of this body style with the Z28 and the brown with the gold, I love it. I think the colorway on this car is fantastic. Do you like it as much as I do? What do you think, JP?
Yeah, I'm kind of falling in love with it while I'm looking at the photos. I actually have some direct experience. A neighborhood friend. You know, when you're growing up in the 80s, that kid down the road that's like 3 or 4 years older than you when you're in junior high and he's already in high school, he gets his license. He's the cool kid. He can go get fireworks on his own. He knows how to find people to get beer. So this car, he had one that was the exact same color. I didn't know they were 6 speeds. I thought they were all 5 speeds.
He might have swapped the transmission for a more modern gearbox.
There's no way that
Tremec 6-speed.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I love this thing. It's just so nostalgic. And you know, it's just fun muscle car T-top goodness. I mean, you get a girl that's got teased up hair and some, you know, pink leopard print tight pants, and you are good to go at the drive-in movie theater. And we know what he's pointing at, all those stains in the back seat. Mike, what do you think of this car?
Oh man, you know, I don't normally gravitate towards something like this, but the colors are so good. They're just so good. Yeah. And I'm like totally sold on it now. You know what though? It's interesting because I'm realizing something. I'm looking at the browns and I'm looking at the seat fabric and I'm like, wait a minute. There's like some Porsche stuff going on. Like they're using a lot of like Porsche, 80s Porsche adjacent stuff. And I'm realizing, oh shit, like that's why I like it. Because I can see this, I can see all these colors like working on a G body. And, you know, I look at this thing and it's super rad. But all that aside, I mean, this is a super cool car. I like the fact that it's, you know, it's got a 6-speed and it's got a 350. So, you know, it's a little bit not necessarily brought into the modern era, but it's got kind of like a nice, you know, nice update, I guess, drivetrain wise. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool. I hope it does well. Again, it's funny. I think looking at these things, you know, being somebody who's more into European cars and seeing the colorway and kind of going, oh, Porsche. So.
Well, what do we think it's going to bring, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP, our car closes tomorrow. It's currently sitting at $15,000 on 13 bids, which is interesting. JP, you know, I know roughly kind of what he's into it. I also know what he's trying to get for it, but I'm still going to give you a bid, maybe a little bit high, but I'm ambitious that I think if two people fight over this car, because John, when was the last time we saw a nice, tuned, dialed in IROC with a manual on this platform ever? Like occasionally some IROCs come on that are automatics with low miles, but that's not the same driving experience as this one with limited slip diff and a center force clutch and a 6-speed manual and a big 350. So I'm hoping two people fight over it. And if that happens, JP, I think this car is going to sell for $28,028. 28028 is my bid, JP. I know I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I dig it. And my argument is going to be there are no comps. And this is a good driving car. He's done the suspension and motor makes power. This would certainly drive like a slightly more modern muscle car and less like the, you know, paper mache piece of junk that it was from the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's optimistic. I'd be shocked if it got anywhere near 30. I think breaking 20 is going to be success for this car. And this is the kind of car I think I would pay more than 24. What do you get for 25 grand that has this kind of flossy, flexy fun? I mean, I want this car. I'll go 25 grand and hand it off to Mike. What do you think?
Yeah, I was going to go a little bit more optimistic. You know, I think photos are solid. And I'm always like photos. It's like the most important thing you could do for an online listing like this. I'm going to go 22.5 on this. I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic.
Fair enough.
And I just checked check some comps, and I think that's where I'm going to sit.
Well, I mean,
All
how do
right.
you comp this
That's
car
fair.
when with a 6-speed? That really is something different about this whole thing. This is one of those cars that it's like, this is the conundrum that you always have buying classic cars that have been modded from an auction site where the car is in another state and you can't just go drive it. This is the kind of car that if you get behind the wheel and rip it around the block, it's like, oh, you can fall in love with something like that. I would really like to experience what this car is like, and I could see that experience lightening my wallet. But does the platform, does buying something like this online make it harder to convey that experience? You had mentioned the driving video. I'll probably have to go back and watch that. We can't really, it's hard to share the driving videos on here.
It is hard to share, but I encourage everybody in the herd to watch it just for a couple minutes, just for entertainment purposes, because it's hilarious. You can tell this car is making power, and you can tell every time he engages in the throttle, the car is like, it's like an angry car. Gerd corrected me and said the original motor was a 305, and the herd is all over us, JP. 24.9, 23. Looks like Christian doesn't like it at 13,000, 26.5. 19,000, 26, 24, 19, 21.5, 19,999, and 27.3.
He's got his hand at 12 o'clock and he's ripping through the. You can get away with it in a muscle car.
Totally.
Oh, this thing sounds great.
Isn't it?
This is the most Camaro owner video I have ever seen.
Absolutely. It's absolutely. He's such a nice guy too. He's like, he completely gets it. Like, his car is comedy to him.
Awesome.
Does the car come with a mullet?
Yeah, I think he's gonna be sad when it's gone. But Joff's a really nice guy, and he's got a muscle shop in Hayward, California, which is where the car is located. So on behalf of the Bid Nerds, Joff, wish you well, and mental thanks for the introduction. I hope it brings him all the money. It's peerless. There's nothing else like it. So thank you, JP.
Nerd herd out there, what do you guys think this car will bring? Let us know in the comments below. Is it going to bring all the 80s goodness love and the cash to go with it? Or is this car more for a boomer who doesn't have any money left because he's retiring? We want to hear what you guys think. Look, if you are in the nerd herd right now, hanging out, do us a solid and go to this listing. If you're in front of a computer, go to the listing on Bring a Trailer and say that that the Bid Nerds talked about this and cover this car. Let everybody know that everyone who's watching this car, we know the owner. He's a good guy, apparently. So let's help him out and let's help him spread the word. And so, yeah, get in there in the comments and have some fun with it. All right, what else we got on the list, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP. I thought you selected this car. If somebody else did, let me know who it is. But it's the 1977 Porsche 911S that has been completely modified as a chop top. They took a couple inches out of the windshield height and then threw a custom built 3.2 liter motor in it. Look at the photos. Feast your eyes on this thing and take a minute to recognize how unusual this car is. So first of all, 77 911S would have been a complete narrow body car. This car has clearly been treated to turbo flares in the front and the rear. It's got an IROC front air dam with an oil cooler in there. It looks like it's sitting on 17-inch forged wheels that are painted black, and they ran a dual exhaust system out of the rear bumper. JP, I've never seen that done on a 911 before. Pea shooters, yes, but not this unusual dual exhaust that's coming out right below the Porsche, reflector. Yeah, look at those. That is. Have you seen a car like that before?
Negative.
No, this is crazy looking.
Still has the notch though.
Yeah, totally. The interior is also very interesting. They went with a much older period correct seat. So this would be a seat that would look more at home in a long hood than a G body car. RS door cards, a prototypo steering wheel, no center console, so you got a whole naked floor. I mean, they did extensive modifications to this car. But the big news here is what the power to weight ratio would be. I have a sneaky suspicion this is probably a pretty fun car to drive with a low center of gravity. It's entirely possible this car handles really well. I just don't know if it did. And again, our car is on PCAR Market. This is not on BAT. So you always, like, in the back of my mind when I'm looking at something like this on PCAR Market, I think my knee-jerk reaction is It's probably a piece of ish, but I'll be surprised and happy to find out if it is a good car. This one it's very Frankenstein looking. There's also something really weird with the headlights going on there, JPs. It's almost like they ripped the sugar scoops off, but didn't put in H4s. Can you go back to the headlights and tell me if you see what I see? They look unfinished to me. Like they look naked. They don't have any rings on them. And it looks like a more modern bulb than whatever would have come in the car originally. So a lot of weird stuff going on here based on the motor and the wide track and the special wheels and the exhaust. It could be a fun car to drive. I don't know. I've always felt that the cockpit of a 911 was a masterpiece in efficiency. And that although I'm not a particularly tall guy, I do have a slightly taller torso. And, if I have a hat on, I could basically feel the roof of the headliner in my car. You go and chop the roof and do you fit anymore? Would a tall guy fit in this car? Plus it's a sunroof car. So it's a lower roof line to begin with. I think if you chop the top, don't you have to ditch the sunroof and get that inch or two back underneath that chopped roof? So a lot of swings, maybe a lot of misses, JP. I don't really know how I feel about this one. I appreciate the effort of doing something completely unique. I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm not a buyer.
What did they do to this car?
Right?
I love modded cars. I love hacking stuff up and trying things that would tick off a Porsche file or make the pleated pants brigade get
the PCA.
Bunch. Look, I'm not offended by this car. I'm just like, why? What the hell were they thinking? I mean, they went through so much trouble doing so much of this work. This was hard work to mess this car up as bad as they did. And a lot of times, we've picked cars and, even people in the nerd herd is like, yeah, we know how to pick them. It's true. It's because this is definitely an interesting car, right? It's not because it's a good car. It's just an interesting car. There's a lot to talk about on this thing. When we talked about that brown Targa that everyone was flipping out because it basically had the same Kinesis wheels on it, a couple of weeks ago, that was a car where you can kind of look at it, you can see the things that were done wrong and see how easy they are to correct. And then all of a sudden you have an opportunity to have a really cool car at a discount because everyone else is ishing over it because of the mods. These are mods that you can't fix. Deeb, you're pointing at the headlight sets there. Those aren't obviously they're not H4s, they're not the sugar scoops. It's because the whole darn, when I first saw this car, I was like, could you pull these fenders and put the correct fenders on and actually make this look cool, or could you slap some slant noses on this thing and do something with it? But then when you look at the car closely, you notice that the whole front piece is one big clamshell. So the fender, the part that goes in front of the windshield all the way to the other fender, that's all one big piece of bad fiberglass. So there's no pulling this off easily. You have to cut it off. This thing has been grafted on there. So there's no way to un-F this car. It is permanently F'd. Chopping the top. Look at this. Look, you got the rock guard here, and the bottom of the rock guard is supposed to go along the line of the bottom of the door where the rocker panel would sit, but it's obviously a rock guard from the wrong car. It doesn't fit. What are you doing? It's crooked. It's stupid. It's just like everything is wrong with this car. And you're absolutely right. If you're going to go through the trouble, and it had to have been really hard to chop the roof of this car and get a Speedster windshield or something. Why the hell would you put a sunroof in it? At that point, you're going to lower the headroom, and then doing that crazy exhaust at the end and not getting rid of the notch. I mean, you're doing all this body work, but you're going to leave the notch for a stock exhaust pipe. Mike, do you know what kind of crack this person is on? What the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell? What the hell, man? Help us.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you spell fentanyl?
My first thought is this is the kind of thing that Gateway Classic Cars would buy for whatever the winning bid is, and then stick it on their website for 2x.
Yeah.
And then and then probably find somebody who's drunk enough to actually spend the money to buy it.
Totally.
But
business model.
No, this is there's been some choices made here. Definitely. I'll just say that. Um, uh, yeah, it's funny too because I feel like it could have almost been really good. Like there are objectively some good things going on here. Like I know, like the engine bay looks pretty good, interior looks pretty good, but it was just like that one decision, that one, two or three decisions that really just let's say it took a lot of resale value out of this car. So,
all right. Do we think this crushed bucket is going to bring anything on PCAR Market? How is this another twofer? Do we got to guess how much it will fail to sell at, and then also how much it goes in the chum bucket for? What do we got?
Pretty much every car on PCAR Market. That's the thing.
They are not selling anything lately. I mean, nothing.
No, they sell garage signs, garage art. Location is Slough House, California, 95683, which I've never heard of. This car's got to be somewhere unusual in Southern California. JP, our car closes in 2 days from now, so that's going to be Friday, and it's currently at $3,500 on just 3 bids. I initially wrote $45,000, and I am changing my bid. JP, I'm not even sure this car is going to bring 30 grand. I think I'm just going to give you 28. God, it feels weird even saying that. It sounds high. $28,000 where it fails to sell. And I'm guessing this thing's going to wind up in the chum bucket for like 65 grand.
Yeah. I mean, as much as I dislike the car, the parts bin aspect of this car, I mean, you buy this thing, you got a powertrain right there. That the engine and transmission alone is worth $40,000. So I don't, so if you could go buy this thing and drive it home rather than having to buy a engine and putting on a pallet, why not? Yeah. So I'm going to say 45 grand. It goes in the chum bucket.
Oh, you are going to, you're taking my old bid. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. I'm going to say 45 grand, 45,911, since we're being cute. And then, say it goes in the chum bucket for like 85.
You think it's that much, huh?
Yeah, I think this guy. Right. Well, yeah, because there's another thing I noticed on this thing too, is that it was in a magazine at some point. So this guy, is really proud of it. Mike,
constantly overestimated own tactical significance. Coots. All right, Mike.
Excellence Magazine had this thing in there supposedly. I mean, can you imagine Excellence Magazine?
Mike, have you ever owned an air-cooled 911?
I have only owned a 996. That is the only.
That's a good car
experience that I've had. I had an early.
You paid your dues. Yeah, you paid your dues.
Sort of. But I've driven a lot of air-cooled cars. I would say I agree with the parts bin verdict on this car. I think there's a lot of good stuff in here. I would take those seats. I'd take that motor. I'd put it in something else immediately. And then, I'd probably burn the rest of the car. I don't know, do something fun with it. Maybe turn it into like a rally car or something. But
Safari.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, actually, it could be kind of a cool Safari car.
Keep bumping.
I'm gonna go with like 40, if you could fit. Yeah, if you could fit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 42 on the bid. I'm gonna go 42.5 actually. We're gonna do 42.5. Then I'm going to go chum at... I mean, who cares, I guess. But
it never gets old. It never gets old. It never gets old. Look at the kids shortening it. That's like when you saw the Dur stickers. He's like, I'm going to go chum at... And what's your chum there, Mike?
I'll say 72 grand.
There you go.
Or 70. Let's give it a round number, 70 grand.
I mean, at 45... Man, I would buy this thing and pull the powertrain on it and put it in my 912 and then take the powertrain out of my 912 and put it in this and just sell this thing for 20 something because someone wants this shape that drives. And then, I mean, they'd just be swapping everything. How great would that be? I think the owner of this car is quite proud of it. Yeah. So, what do you guys think? Let us know what this chopped 911 butchered thing will bring, or if it'll bring anything. Also, let us know what you think it'll wind up, if you think it's going to wind up in the chum bucket. We love getting those bids from the nerd herd. All right, we've got another car. We've got quite the eclectic list tonight. What's the last one on the list, Michael D? What are you going to pull out of that?
Jimmy, because I've heard of these cars, but I've never studied them. So every time we pick a car, we learn something. Excuse me. This is a 1985 BMW 323i Bauer TC. It's a European market E30 that has the convertible conversion. Our particular car is a 5-speed manual. It's sitting on a U.S. title. It's on Cars and Bids and located in Port St. Lucia in Florida. And the car is showing 90,000 miles, but it's got to be true mileage unknown. True to the European spec, JP, this car has a AAA VIN, which is, I'm sure, significant to the European cars, the same way Porsche has from that period. All the European cars are ZZZ. Really interesting car. The German coach builder named Bauer is the one that modified it and made it this sort of God, JP, it's hard to. It's almost like. Do you remember those Lancia Beta Zagatos where it's like it's a convertible, but it's not a full convertible? They leave one bar across the top of the windows in the back, almost like a roll bar, and then the convertible top stows all the way back. But it keeps the hard B pillars, which I think is really interesting and really weird to see this car with the top down driving down the road. Now, again, I've heard of these cars. I'm sure I've seen one in person at a Concours or some car show somewhere from my youth, but I can't remember seeing one at market in the United States anytime recently. God, how iconic is that sort of dolphin gray metallic paint from that period of BMW? Our car looks like it's got sport seats and a manual gearbox and an all red, a sea of red leather, a sea of can red leather. What else can I tell you about this car? Dolphin gray metallic. That's just comedy. This, if you look
Some
really
BBS
closely,
RAs.
BBS RAs,
and the Zender body kit, guys.
And I was just gonna say, JP, look at the fender, the rockers, and the body kit is really cool. So I imagine, John, in period, this was probably like a 6-figure to buy the car and then go take it to a coach builder and get all this custom work done. I bet you somebody was in this car, maybe not $100,000, but close to it back in, what did we say, 1985. It's not going to bring any of that money today, but this would have been breathtakingly expensive back in period. Something you would have expected to see in Beverly Hills with a Rob report. So, John, I send it over to you. I know you've driven a boatload of E30 BMWs. Any love for these unusual aftermarket cabriolets? What do you think, JP?
Yeah, I didn't know that Bauer made this kit for E30s. This was a really common thing to see on the 320s.
The earlier cars.
Yeah,
the earlier cars. Yeah.
What would
Okay.
that be?
E21.
E21.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. So to see it on an E30 is kind of interesting. I just straight up, I would have bet that was only on the E21. So, and I'm loving this combination with the Zender body kit and the red interior. It's too bad that we haven't really gotten to the pictures of the interior much yet, but the interior, the dashboard has definitely seen better days. I mean, this car is in Florida. We always talk about how big a detriment that is to these types of cars. You can just kind of smell the moisture getting into all of that. And this car probably is not a great experience for those who have very sensitive noses. Way too much red going on. They obviously added the red on the dashboard and the red on the center console. And a little red goes a long way, and they went a little too far with this one. Maybe there's a way to get a aftermarket dashboard and fix that up, and I think this car is drastically improved. Low spec, no power windows. That's really surprising on a E30 of this generation. Yeah.
More common in Europe though, JP. Like in these brands in America were always trying to live up to this luxury cachet that we tagged on them. So it's like if they were bringing a car to the US, 9 times out of 10, it had to be power, everything, give them all the bells and whistles because that's what the Americans were gobbling up. So I think, we might call it low spec, but in Germany, they would have been lightweight, like that kind of thing. Also, that body kit is Kamei, Kamei. Do you remember
Oh, it's a
that brand?
Cami. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
It's a
so
Zender
they
and
did all
Cami were
stuff.
basically the same
Oh,
company
okay.
back then.
They
yeah.
were the same company. All right,
Yeah.
and then
I mean, they weren't
Heartgate?
the same company, but they were like everything they did was a copy of one another.
Okay.
The Scirocco, the Volkswagen, they made a ton of stuff for Scirocco's and Volkswagens too.
Yeah, Heartgate did the cylinder head and a camshaft. So this car's probably making, maybe 15-20% more power with a full aftermarket exhaust, and then Bilstein on the suspension. So I mean, there's some like things to enhance the driving experience are on this car, aside from the cosmetic upgrade by making it the convertible, which is probably heavier. But
Mike,
Mike,
what do you think of this car? Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
stop it in there.
Oh, I think this car is so cool.
Yeah,
I just want to say, I think it's so cool. I am also very biased because I also have another Euro market, old 80s BMW, an old E24. But this thing is super rad. I really like the interior. I like, other than the dash, which is unfortunate, but somebody can fix that. And yeah, it's cool. It's cool. My favorite thing though is I actually went and dug in on it a little bit, and it's got all the old federalization paperwork. So it's actually got all of the info when it was first imported. And a funny indication for that is look at the reflector on the rear bumper. So this is, as you guys probably know, this is a thing of the period where federalizations were done differently depending on where the car was brought in, right?
Right.
So if you had brought it to like California, they might not have done they might have had more reflectors. If you brought it to New York, they might have had less of them. You just never know. And it's so funny because they're all just so different. There was no uniform on this whatsoever. Sometimes they would tack on US bumpers. Luckily, this car got to keep its Euro bumpers, which is super cool. But you can see the reflector is like drilled
in. Yeah.
to the molding in the back. It was like, that's a creative way to do it, I guess. They pulled it bodywork.
They pulled it right off a Suzuki motorcycle and put it right onto the BMW bumper.
I know, and it just has me asking, it's like, who federalized this thing, man? It's super interesting.
Yeah, this is obviously done long before the 25-year exemption, which would just sort of leave the car alone as long as you could, make sense of the speed in the kilometers and miles per hour. The 25-year exemption really allows the cars to just come in, but this was done way before that. But yeah, really neat car, huh?
All right, Deeb, what's it going to bring?
All right, JP. So all the love that we've given this car, and I would also go out and say, I think it's on the right platform, being on Doug DeMuro's weird cars and bid site. I think this car is just quirky enough that it's in the right place. However, John, our car closes tomorrow, and it's currently sitting at just $6,200 on 7 bids. Initially, JP, I put a bid and then I kind of lowered it before we went to the show, but I just, given the love that this car is getting, I still think something magic's going to happen. I'm going to go $18,000 based on nothing, because as much as I'm a BMW fanboy, I'm not a BMW head. I don't know all the nomenclature. I might not see all the cool spec that's on this car like the rest of you. But I think it's really neat, and it's all period correct. And I bet you this car drives really nice. So I'll give you 18 grand and hope that it gets there. John, where are you at?
This car should be a $25,000 to $30,000 car, but it's sitting on Cars and Bids, and Doug DeMuro, as weird as he is just like, how did he let this listing happen? This car deserves, a photographer that you're gonna pay a photographer $1,000, $2,000 to create beautiful, stunning photos of this car. If Avant-Garde had this car is getting $30,000, right? But instead they parked it in a parking lot it just like, what the hell is going on? You got garbage. I mean, it's at a storage unit somewhere, and they just rolled it out of the storage unit, snapped a bunch of pictures, and then rolled it back in. They are leaving literally tens of thousands of dollars on the table. This car is special, but it just looks like a crappy, beat up, used car. It looks really nice. The only downside of this car is that dashboard. Fix that. Take the photos. sell the car for twice as much money if someone can get this for under $20,000. I think it'll be a steal. It really comes down to what Cars and Bids let them reserve this thing at. So yeah, what was your bid? 18 grand?
18, yeah.
I think it's gonna
over under.
I think I'm gonna go under. I think it's gonna fail to sell at like 15,323. I'm gonna hand it off to Mike. See what he thinks.
So this car is actually sold before on that in 2021.
21
and in 21. So given the information I have on that, which it hammered for 16,000, I am actually going to go like 13,750.
Wow.
Because and I've seen old Euro spec BMWs come up like this, and Euro spec cars are weird in the US. They don't always perform the way that they should, despite the fact that in many cases they're actually better than most of the US cars, because they're either higher compression, they got the smaller bumpers, but there's always some weird pause, I think, with a lot of buyers who look for these cars, and you see it time and time again with a lot of Euro spec cars that are sold in the US. I don't know. I think it's like that and the presentation, and had I been selling this car, I would have thrown out that dashboard. The instrument cluster has also been painted red or something. I would have ripped that out.
I wonder, that kind of looks like it might be something that Bauer did, because it matches the center console. I was thinking the same thing.
Bauer covered some components in the interior in red leather to match the seats.
Yeah, I suspect that dashboard was probably part of the package.
Okay.
I mean, bad choice for sure, but yeah. So Mike, so in 2020, like when in 2021, because 2021 was on the bubble of when everything went nuts.
Yep.
And so, what we're seeing right now is like people talk about prices, corrections, inflation, drink, guys. If this car was sold on BAT for, what'd you say, 13 or something like that, 14?
It's sold in September 26, 21 for 16.
For 16.
On the
Okay,
dot.
so that was as things were just starting to creep up. I'll bet that by a year later, if you tried to sell this thing in 22, that someone would have gotten at least 25 grand for it. Because things went really, really crazy. Everything like this was worth 25 grand. And then that's why I'm kind of like, I think this car should sell, because with inflation, even if it sells for the same number, that's still a loss. Because if you sold this, if you got 25 grand for the car in 2022, and you sold it 2 years later, like now, for $25,000, you've lost probably 20%, because that's what inflation has been roughly, if not more. So you really have to get way above in order to see a real dollar appreciation in value. So anyways, that said, I think this car, you're right about the weirdness of the kind of gray market European thing, but presentation. There's nothing about this listing that makes this car special. The only people that are looking at this and thinking it's something that they want are somebody that knows what it is. If this car were listed on BAT the right way, and it's kind of like, here's one of those things. Did you know this exists? Oh my God, that's a thing. I want that. People pay a lot of money for E30s. We've definitely seen like E30 M3s take a big hit in value. But they were $60,000 cars forever. Then they bounced up to $150,000 or more. And now they're coming back down in that $100,000 range, which is a little bit more realistic, but that's still six figures. I think people look at something like this E30 and say, hey, I can get a special E30 for, less than 30. I think people would pay for that, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. You guys always know better than we do. I think that's all the cars for tonight, isn't it?
That's enough. My God.
Jeez, can you believe we put Mike through all of this? He agreed to come on, and we just
there goes my membership.
I'm ready for 10 more. Let's go.
10 more. Let's do it. All right, we're doing a marathon night.
Marathon.
I can do this all night.
All 10. Yeah. So that would be all the cars on PCAR Market, like for the next week. Right. That's all they get. We can do a chum bucket night or a chum night. And by the way, I just had to use the graphic one more time. I mean, I built it like 5 minutes before we did the show, so I had to get that in there one more time. Thanks, guys. All right, so Mike, how do we find you on the InstaWebs and all those things, and how does someone become a member of the Motoring Club?
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's let's see. Just either look up Motoring Club on Google or just themotoringclub.com. And if you want to become a member in LA or SF, just sign up for a tour and we'll show you around. Try to get you on.
All right.
Is there going to be a special deal for Nerd Herd members?
Yeah.
Or hosts of Bid Nerds in particular?
Yeah. We can we'll see what we can do.
All right. That's good. See, I'm looking out for you, Nerd Herd. I'm trying to get you deals. Come on. Let's make this happen. All right.
Awesome.
And are you currently on another podcast? Is there somewhere else we can see you, or you're producing podcasts? What tell us about that?
I am the ghost on another podcast. I am the producer. I am the Mike that is mentioned as a producer on It's Not the Car. So I produce. It's a motorsport podcast, and we just talk about motorsport stories. It's with Sam Smith, Ross Bentley, and Jeff Braun.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
It's basically the joke that we make. The joke that we make is a race engineer, automotive journalist, and a race coach walk into a bar.
Yeah, and that's
the outcome. So it's a fun show. Yeah, but I'm behind the scenes on that. I produced that one.
In a previous iteration of his life, Mike Pearlman had a position at Hagerty where he was the podcast manager at a time when Hagerty had more than, or at least close to, a half dozen podcasts. But something about being a publicly traded company, when you don't meet the goals for the investors, they start to cut positions. Is that a fair, crude summarization of the last 10 years of your life?
Well, this is not going to help us get a sponsorship with Hagerty, so we're not going to let him answer that question. All right, guys, thanks for watching another episode. Make sure you're in there hitting the thumbs up button. Make sure you've subscribed if you haven't already. Of course you have. Welcome all the new Nerd Herd members tonight. I'm seeing a lot of new names in the chat. So welcome. Help us spread the word, grow the herd. Share an episode, and let's make this show happen. We have a lot of fun making it for you guys. Shout out to God and Porsche, God and Classic, and of course, Our Smiths up in Idaho. Anthony, I think he was in here for a while, but I think he dipped out. But give him a shout out as well. And Michael Deeb, if someone wants to sell their car on Hagerty, Hagerty does not sponsor the show, but Mike Deeb is employed by those guys.
Right. Just reach out to either JP or myself in the direct messages on Instagram or on YouTube or whatever. And you can always email me at mdeeb@hagerty.com. We are taking consignments right now for Monterey. So if you have something special, something very interesting and among the best of the best, reach out to me and let's see if we'd be a candidate for our live auction.
All right. Sunday nights at 6:30. That's when we're going to see you next. We're always on Wednesdays and Sundays at 6:30 Pacific time. Thanks again, Mike, for hanging out with us. We're going to leave it with that. And we're out.
Get those words!